IRENIKON. IRENIKON, a proposition, scheme, or treatise designed to promote peace. Proposition. A formal statement of a theorem or problem, often including the demonstration. B. A form of words which expresses what is either true or false. Bertrand Russell. The whole is greater than the part. Euclid. Given. Collision of third and abacus. To prove that quietude may be something akin to a green fern a man can carry with him in his hands, unfading until the end of the world. Given. Anarchy, thrown to the winds, flowing within the 24 right angles set in a white box. And mathematics, coined and commissioned to design one fugue from the rulerless dimensions of the nightly journeying spaces between the stars. Given collapsed rainbows reminiscent of vomited candy. Given doves foaming at the mouth over dead waters. Given sunless plateaus littered with gods dying of leukemia. Given the mind-stunning sound of echelons of obsolete bomber squadrons all day long tattooing the overhead wind. Given the worn-down dynamos under the assembly lines of the white flag-flying armament factories in the mountains of Kamchatka. Given nicotine-stained eyeballs. Given Widdershins spores gnawing at the core of the bones. Given fibrillating rib cages, blue-black with a plethora of antibiotics. Given adolescents dying of old age. Given dead-weight catalogues of tenement dwellers constantly on the move. Given the impossibility of true solitude in ghetto saucepans full of maggots boiling without water on gas rings. Given trees that excel mildew only in size. Given flowers made of plastic because they look more real on television, stared at after supper by families sitting slippered in their shock-deadening armchairs. Given smiling newscasters reading from smoothly digested novels with honey pouring from their rosy mouths. Given naked black scorpion-minded headlines glanced at once and at once torn up and used to light bonfires in back gardens at weekends. Given paradise, a divine 2-week holiday in Majorca on a charter flight package tour, or laughter on close-cropped lawns and men diving into an empty swimming pool. Given hell, an overwhelmingly easy journey with commuters in a train, passing by endless telegraph poles and lines of wires silently, or hooded crones murmuring again and again the terror of having no telephones in hell. Given love-making rendered cripple or criminal or totally null and sensation empty by depraved Vikings lifting their mauve-loaded minds out into the cleanest streets in the world. Given the dull boredom where there are no known fissures in the porcelain face of the world. Given a surfeit of spirit levels and waters calmed by the oil bulk of incontinent tankers. Poster yellow beaches designed for anatomy funfairs, bedeviled by the cries of tar-skinned gannets, oceans pregnant with gumulka heavy green gravy and bubbles eased up from dead mermaids, indestructible plastic cleanser bottles blighting the skull and crossbone findings of mudlarks, and whales dying of the spewed excrement of company directors. Given computers programmed only to calculate the multiples of malignant cancer cells lodged in the mouthpieces of trombones. Given power stations half dazed by cerebral strokes paralyzing the right sides of industrial towns. Given dilapidated billboards everywhere proclaiming that America leads the liberty and the peace and the longest lasting bilge of the world. Given the mad Pope in a leaking chastity belt, flying by jet to raise his frail jewel-dispensing white arms in hot countries where jewel-bedecked churches look down on acres of tin shacks cut off from Jesus, as surely as Christ is cut off from the black pebbles which shine in the ponds of Japanese eyes. Given jungles, given those in Sumatra, or the blue domes of Samarkand. Given jungles, even those in Sumatra, or the blue domes of Samarkand, or the Straits of Magellan, all echoing with the panic of tottering moguls and demagogues hammering nails into the steel Golgothas of tomorrow. Given heads of state who have no heads for heights, save to push buttons, to save the button makers, and to scream down golden telephones. Given God, who above all made a desert and called it peace. Given God as one who has given us this God-given, God-blessed, God-damned little round blue world. It is required to prove peace can be something other than a seven-flavored mirage spanning the cadmium clouds over desert cities, other than a bewildered, meandering dove lifting a dead crow across seas of ceasefires, other than lamb's wool caught on the barbed wire people use to tie up their Christmas presents with, other than a party game for the top 10, played with a brand new stylus and a worn-out record. Other than doctrines and conundrums crooned in half-empty conference halls or jargon of promised lands. It is required to prove that the black clouds rising beyond the tragic Greek mouth of a child when bombers drop down dead in no man's land can be annihilated. To prove that knowledge of the long-suffering sun's ulcers and convulsions screaming through the black nightingale of the cosmos doesn't lessen the loneliness of two friends staring at each other's mind and able to see only the light years between their outstretched hands. To prove that knowledge of done-in ramshackle stars hardly turning now can turn the minds of the leaders from academic cozy preoccupation with palaces and slums, pentagon diagrams of reform and concamenations of power. To prove that setting up lifelines to the banisters of apartment stairs alone can undermine the concrete origins of tears. To prove that touching with giant steps the smithereen tundras of the moon hasn't damned the fortunes of a Ukraine truck driver. To prove that man's something more than a brave child growing old. To prove that the blue diamond waters of Baikal needn't die of blindness. To prove that city is possible, and that even Manhattan can stand as a goal in delectable mountains. To prove that a man may dream of and find and then live in and never contaminate somewhere a land like the land before Eden. It is required to prove that when a black crow hatches from the egg of a white dove, it's not necessarily a battle bird heralding the end of the world. It is required to prove that acts of God and all happenings that necessitate archives are the executed designs of a kind, thinking God who promised peace forever and ever and ever for all men. Construction. Force the rainbow back through its prism, shooting white light again one way. Crucify the dove. Draw a line from the laser eye of man straight to the yellow tooth of God. Inaugurate the demolition of Babel. Pull down the vampire ivy from the buttresses of the shining castles at the edge of the kingdom of heaven. Build air in the castles. Describe a full circle anywhere and of any circumference, and wash it with clean water. Set out a square, paved with stone blocks, one from each nation, and let this be the next world triumphal, with only people there talking together in quiet voices. Design a set of chessmen and board, using one color only. Commit pogrom against the occupants of all high-rise buildings used to catalogue the falling thickness of cash registers. Take off the halos of saints to make them holy. Re-crown Delphi, a neglected wisdom tooth is likely to decay. Scrape the mildew of Buddha's eyes. Call Hiroshima and order the only God whose power has grown with age to stand by. Mastermind a cathedral out of all the books of the world, so that none can be opened, and worship the open spaces left in Gothic libraries. Let there be only one round nation, surrounded by one round, blue, stormless ocean. Let the tree of knowledge be cursed, fig leaves and condoms banned. Let the clocks be stopped and turned on, back to the day of the first Big Bang. Let these things be done, or, if the desire is stronger, follow the Hamlin lemmings into the sea. Proof. The whole earth was of one language, and they said, let us build a city at a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Now Babel hath reached the moon, and language is the splintered diamond of God's voice. Only the cities are of one countenance. Sorrow does things, even to painted masks. Peace is the longest cry, but the longest road leads further back than the strange way the old man came out of the sea. Peace is the longest cry. Any man can think of a way to Eden, but none imagine peace is the longest way. A signpost tells you only the ways away from the one place where it is now. But if a man's thinking of peace, he can never journey anywhere new. Peace was once found in faraway places, but now skyline roads lead to the well of the world's end, and green landscapes too often looked at turn into faded photographs of savannah without anacondas. No road, no thoroughfare, no road, no thoroughfare of ocean, no air corridor leads anywhere but along ebony floors towards flawless mirrors. The footsteps of a tank in Sinai are more easy to follow than those stamped in the moon dust by men. And though they stood in the sea of storms, claiming, "We came in peace," they don't know how to stand up in world halls to speak for all mankind. They have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people lightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace, peace, when there is no war total enough to warrant peace. Now, we have come here, gentlemen, to consider the possibilities of considering whether red tape can do better than merely delay the drift of continents, or whether olive green is the best colour for the new dovecote, or what the best way is to get a handhold to climb a rainbow. Language is a locked room full of frontline reporters shouting into one telephone. Language is the questions shining in a child's eyes, and an old man tongue-tied with endless surprise that he was ever born to die. Language is two gangs of tunnel makers working from opposite ends towards a common centre, but never meeting inside the mountain. Language is a huge brown toad, blinking sometimes on a mud bank. Language is the odyssey along flight paths of echoes, lost in the acoustics of a sound room where the only world-prevailing microphones stands unmanned, and God's face is scarred with heathen, and God's mouth is a charred mask that once smiled, and God's eyes are burnt-out red giants, and God's mind is jarring multitudes and deafened stones. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they can't understand what's going on anywhere. Blessed are they that mourn, for their tears can make crocodiles laugh. Blessed are the meek, for it's easier to tell them when to surrender. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst, for they shall be the first to die. Blessed are the merciful, for they can engineer world euthanasia. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they can have their names recorded in the book of worms. Blessed are they that have been persecuted, for they can become leaders in underground kingdoms. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. They shall endure his constant dissatisfaction with the world he made for a plaything. They shall listen to his kind scorn, damning and damaging their writhing lands. They shall hear and obey with fair minds the left-wing flutters of the man at his right hand. They shall thank him for the abundant vicissitudes of his winter winds. Blessed are the sons of God, for they shall be called peacemakers. They shall be called the news flash pacemakers of fashionable escape routes. They shall bear Mongols with cracked tongues. They shall inherit the treasures of madhouses. They shall suffer the landslide victories of acts of God. They shall march in the epidemic vanguards, fingering the bed sores on the whites of their eyes. They shall seek the main line lanes to Valhalla, but on the way there get shot in an underground train. They shall instruct Sodom and Gomorrah, how to preach the divine birth of gonorrhea. Blessed are the makers of peace. Blessed are ye when men shall reproach you, for you can go to church on Sundays. Blessed are ye when men shall persecute you, for you can put some new pence in the collection box. Blessed are you when men shall say all manner of evil against you falsely, for you can say the same things in private when you go to break wind in the confession box. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward. Surely his goodness and mercy shall grant you a cup of tea and a biscuit in the interval. There is no peace unto the wicked, saith the Lord. There is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. There is no peace. Blessed are ye that make peace, or the noises of peace. Ye are the salt of the earth, tumbling into pure water. Remember the noise of empty bottles is greater. Blessed are ye that make peace, or the smiles of peace. You are the deadly nightshade in the kindergarten. You are the acid that's thrown into people's faces. You are the solar wind that castrates the blood. Remember to keep smiling all the time. May the Lord lift his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. May a big dog lift his leg upon thee and piss hard upon thy shins. Peace is a picked flower. Peace is words dying of sunshine. Peace is a Mahatma's unfinished masterpiece. Peace breaks the hearts of the map makers. Peace is the chronic dystrophy of umpires. Peace is the agony of Aeschylus stared at by women with shiny handbags and lorgnettes. Peace is giant orchids and oak trees growing out of the dirt in an undertaker's fingernails. Peace is the architect of war. More men die of peace than of war. Geriatric hospitals stinking of half-dried urine aren't the products of war. Peace is tiny. Peace is peace, peace, when there is no peace. When there is no war, there's no true man and no man's land to satisfy the addictions of the millionaire wilderness builders. Peace is the assassin of heroes, and this day the white god of war is only a well-made dove, full of the fury of the Lord, poised in the smile of a Buddhist monk. One day it will become a crow whose claw exceeds the hacksaw eye of the Lammergeier. Its teeth will drip sputum collected from the epileptic tables of slanting conference rooms. Its mouth will bay with the rabies drooled from the lips of speech makers. It will spit upon the children in the street and upon the assembly of young men together and upon the popcorn generations who pray for peace and go bowling the next morning. It will suck asthmas from the sun's last dragon and wipe its mouth on the flowery Red Guard banners of those who demonstrate for peace, only because that's the way the wind blows. It will come mocking from the calibers of tear gas guns, till they who sit down in front of embassies are scorched, naked as shaved wolves, crying, "Peace, peace," at the doors. It will lash the calm seas till their green backs bleed, and capsize the smug galleons of pilgrim fathers. It will warn the world of the ultimatums droned in the bare-headed classrooms of Peking, and tell men of the military toys sold in the glittering department stores of Dallas. Ideograms of war can be found painted on walls anywhere where there are two people drifting no more than a stone's throw apart. And the white god dove of war will say, "He that is without sin among you, let him be the first to cast a stone." God into my eyes, and then you shall have peace. When I'm dead and gone, mither, when I'm dead and gone, damned are the men that mourn, for their cries interrupt the counterpoint of invisible guns. Damned are the meek, for they murmur about the discomfort of tinned sardines. Damned are they that hunger and thirst, for they can't throw hand grenades or shout commands. Damned are the pure in heart, for all they can do is polish brass door knobs on weekdays. Damned are they that have been persecuted, for they think martyrdom's the grandest eyrie in the mountains. Damned are the peacemakers, for they have condemned war, when there is no way to terminate the decisions of guns till they have picked up the whole round world in their hands, and with a clean white cloth wiped off the lands and seas. Conclusion. The children, holding hands in the greenwood, will never know the orange horn impaling the sky behind the hunchback pines is a lurking gull, pretending to be the moon rising. The man sitting on the gate near a smouldering signpost points out the way with a steady finger, notwithstanding the endless nodding of his round head and mad cow eyes. The distance is grey with ocean history and the ceaseless crying of storm petrels, galleons, and dolphin sprees. Friendly horns croon along winding valley roads, and unseen armies move on towards battlefields not yet chosen, their harlequin coats of arms as bright as the fractured diamonds in their eyes, reflecting the despair of campaigns. Forests of moss prosper upon the aged curves of boulders, and rain-kindled ferns overhang 9,000 steps cut by goblin miners in a forgotten age, when gold ran in the blue veins of princes dreaming in castle halls. Lanterns among hills of innumerable jewels gleaming with tears, discover the long-lost cavern full of the broken promises of rainbows. And the last dragon, on its back, coiled in divine agony, offers its silken belly to sword or feather duster, and lies there, dying of uncontrollable laughter, and a surfeit of greenhorn spells.